Okay, thanks everyone for joining another of our weekly calls focused on the Bamboo release of CA Cloud Service Management. In this weekly series, we're going to do a deep dive into some of the new functionality of the release, really what we consider sort of the marquee, the big new features. We did a release overview, which gave a very high-level overview of all the features and a short demonstration of the key new things. But we really felt is to make sure that everyone understands the value, the benefits, how to use these features. We wanted to do a deep dive 1-hour session on each of those. So with this webcast and the following ones over the next about 6 weeks, we'll go into each new feature. Okay. This will be recorded, or it is being recorded, and will be posted on the community. The last week's on project management was already posted, or was posted in the community last night, including the video recording as well as the PowerPoint in a PDF version that we sent out. I did want to quickly introduce, I think it's always good to know sort of who the team is behind the product. There's a lot more besides just the product management team, but this is the product management team. So myself, Rich Graves, I'm under the customer experience column there. And then today, the focus of the presentation will be on process flows and process designer, with our lead on asset and CMDB, which is Prasanna. From an agenda perspective, I'll do a very short overview, 1 to 2 minutes, on the Bamboo release and what sort of the themes and the focus of that release were. Then Prasanna will take over and do a presentation that first focuses on process flows and process designer from a high level, from a presentation standpoint, then move into a demonstration, and then we'll go for a summary and questions. Just as a reminder, all lines do come in on mute as by default. You can ask a question at any point on WebEx via the chat. Just please do send it to everyone so everyone can see that question. And we have a variety of different people from CA that will be responding. Myself, Sandeep Soman, Prasanna, and we also have Daniel Sasajima from our Latin America team. Okay. So on to Bamboo, and if you haven't heard much about Bamboo before, this will give you a quick overview. This is probably repetitive for many of you. I've seen a lot of the same names on the webcast, which is great. And hopefully you'll have this message down and you can deliver the pitch on the next webcast. But really what we tried to focus on was 3 core areas of making service management, again, service-centric. That sounds funny, and I always think that every time I say it, but what we've really seen in a lot of research we've done is that their focus is on tickets, not services, not people, that the focus is on tickets. And we want to try to shift that to services and shift that to people as well. So we really focused on a couple of core outcomes, and first on design and minimizing the time it takes to design and plan out IT work. So that could be designing your services or planning work related to IT infrastructure and the IT service management team. Next, when you take those services that you've designed, we want to really minimize the time it takes to automate those services. And that includes automating the support process around that service. So you have a Microsoft Exchange service. Well, what's the process to support end users? What's the process to support changes? As well as the process to automate delivery of that service. So if there is the ability to provision an inbox in Microsoft Exchange in an automated fashion, you can absolutely do that and keep IT out of the loop unless there's a problem with that. You can have manager's approval and then just automatically provision that new inbox with our Microsoft Exchange connector. So again, that automation is both the support process as well as the delivery process, which could be a process within Cloud Service Management or integrate with an external system with our automation connectors. Lastly is measure. So I think what we found in a lot of research is that the time it takes to build out reports, to measure what you want to do is complex and way too time consuming. So we want to really minimize the time it takes to measure services. So what we built was in Service View, you'll see a lot of out-of-the-box metrics that once you hit save on that service, in the next 24 hours, you're going to see immediately metrics related to mean time to resolution and number of requesters and number of requests, and all of that data that gives you a good idea of the usage and how you're doing from a performance standpoint related to supporting that service. So that's design, automate, and measure, really the focus of this release. So that really comes into the project center, which we covered last week, which is very ad hoc, simple IT project management. It's a great way to leverage all the data you already have in the system as far as configuration items, and services, and people, and leverage that for managing, outages or managing, ad hoc changes. And in the middle, we have the process designer, which is really our unified designer for implementing workflow. So it's a new and improved version of what you thought of in the past as workflow actions and auto routes, as well as an integration with automation directly in a drag and drop visual designer. And that's what will be covered today. And last but certainly not least, on the right there is Service View, and Service View again is that way to easily create and design services, but also easily get metrics on the services that you've already created or you're about to create. Okay. So without further ado, I will now pass it over to Prasanna. So Prasanna, if you could grab the ball there. Oh, there you go.
Thank you. Thanks, Rich, for the quick introduction of the Bamboo release. And I think the middle piece, the automate piece, was the one which we are dealing now with the process designer. I think process designer is nothing but the graphical view of probably the existing auto route and workflow actions, what you are doing earlier. The same part of it, but now the ability to visualize the complete flow from end-to-end perspective is what the new designer is all about. Designer. So apart from the existing manual workflows which we had in the earlier past, so we also added the functionality to call in the automated steps inside the process flow, making it completely hybrid workflow, calling it as unified service designer, where we can call manual workflow actions and also have in between automation steps to do the automated activity inside the process. So what are the benefits of this? Like, definitely the visualization would give a big boost to the process designer, and also to the organization, because most of the organization would need to follow a specific process for each ticket which they get in. So there should not be any ad hoc way of creating or managing a particular ticket in a process. So this would definitely get to the proper adherence to the process. That's what I would call it, as compliance to process or something, where you have defined a process by specifying, okay, this is the process which I would follow for all these type of changes based on a particular category or something. That means that all the tickets which would land in using that category would flow that process. Nobody can tweak that process or do a back-end entry to that process and then do an approval or do a rejection or do a close for that ticket, is what we are ensuring that inside the process. And also a single place to create and manage all your workflows, be it your manual workflows or be it your automated steps inside your process. That's the big benefit of this process. And also we are also having a migration option where, assume you already have the auto routes and workflow actions configured in your environment. So you want to migrate those things inside the process. So we have options for both your auto routes and workflow actions to migrate. In the demo, probably I would show how easy it is to migrate the legacy workflow actions or the auto routes inside the process. So next, Bamboo process design for new customer, what they would see for a new customer. So there won't be any auto routes and workflow actions, because that's definitely the legacy part of it. So we don't want to encourage them to use these auto routes and workflow actions. They would directly get the process workflows, and then based on that, there won't be any getting the existing auto route or the out of the box what we had ITIL defined auto routes and workflow actions will not be there. In place of that, what they would be getting is the out-of-the-box process flows for each ticket type, which would be based on, again, ITIL. We have basic process flows for each of the process, and also the advanced process flows like for change management and advanced problem management, advanced incident management flows. But those advanced flows would be in draft state. Yeah. So those would be in the draft state.
No. In June.
Okay. Some disturbance in the line, or? Okay.
Yeah, I'll mute the line.
Okay. So apart from that, these advanced process flows would be in the draft state so that it will not interfere with the existing flows which you already configured, or the catch-all process which we will be publishing inside the out-of-the-box process flows for the new customers. So that's about the new customer. How about my existing customer? So what they would see in the existing customer. So for existing customer, it would be business as usual. So they won't be doing any changes to the existing flow, because their current configured auto route workflow actions will continue as it is. And then only thing what they would see is a message which is shown over here as like introducing new process designer to ease configuring. You can try it out now. That's just a message, but still your existing auto route workflow actions would still continue to work as is. So there's no changes to the existing or new ticket lifecycle, because we don't want to make that big change for the existing one. It would be based on your need, based on your comfort level. You would probably migrate to the new process. So we can probably help, or the migration tool would help you to migrate the existing auto routes and process designer, which you can test it out in your staging environment and then start using this process flow. Again, the big benefit of the process flow is adherence to the compliance or adherence to the process. So whereas in the existing world, you can create your own workflow action which would tweak based on the matching condition, which would probably end up in going the ticket to the multiple places. For that, you would need to remember what was the matching condition, and then that actions would show up in the ticket. There might be a huge list of actions for that particular ticket, because you might not set your matching condition properly, or if you have set that, you need to remember them properly, and those things would be a problem. So using process designer, you would see how easy it would be to configure, and then the list of actions available for the analyst to pick would be very minimum. That would be based on my process flow. What are the next steps available for the process or the step to continue? Only those actions would show up in that list, apart from the general bulk actions or system defined actions. So that would show up. So your workflow list for an analyst to take an action would be very simple. So training him or providing him information on what steps he has to perform would be simpler for an existing customer to migrate to the new process designer. So no immediate migration to process designer. I think we covered it. So probably I will just walk through the migration utility inside the process, how to get the migration assistant running, and then multiple auto routes. Currently we had a lot of auto routes configured. Again, most of the auto routes probably would have configured for assigning to a specific group based on certain tweak changes or certain small changes. So we can probably configure them. We can now have inside the process flows what we have come up with, the assignment rules sort of thing. That is nothing but the existing way of auto routes. So we can have multiple of such rules inside a process to address the assignment or any small set conditions for the fields to have them inside the process flow itself. So you can have multiple auto routes getting into a one single process. So, and then you can also have multiple workflow actions You can also import them from the migration utility and then actions as steps inside the process flow. So they can try it out. You can try it out migration in production or staging at any point of time. So it will become active once the process flow is published. That way it will become active, and your workflow actions would probably not work, or it would, like how the flow would take precedence would be is, in case if I have the process flow match the condition, then the ticket would hit the process flow first. In case if there is no process flow, then it would go to the auto routes and then apply the auto route accordingly. So in case if I have a process flow which would match all the conditions and then you have published that, that means you might end up all the tickets getting into that particular process flow and not reaching the auto route. So need to be a bit careful when you are publishing the process flow, which has the catch all process or something similar to that. So that's one need to take care while enabling or publishing the process flows. So let me define a simple process, how easy to create. I'm just taking a scenario where you're creating a new request process flow to handle all legal related requests. So what's the standard process? It's like, okay, process flow, I need to create a catalog, or I can just go to directly to service request and then create a request for a particular RFP. You need legal verification. So service request is routed directly to legal department, and legal department accepts the request, fulfills the request, service ticket is closed. These are probably the standard small, like very standard process, or very simple process which we need to demonstrate, or which we need to get inside the process flow. So let me get on to the process flow. Sharing my screen. Rich, if you have any questions, we can take during that time.
Yeah, while you're transitioning, a couple similar questions have come in, and I just want to reiterate it because I think it's an important part for existing customers. So for existing customers, when your instance is upgraded to the Bamboo release, you will have this, exactly what Prasanna is showing, the process flows and process designer. Your existing workflow actions and auto routes remain unchanged. Your tickets that you create after the Bamboo upgrade will continue to use your auto routes and workflow actions. The process flows essentially are not triggered until you go in and say, I want to start using process flows. So at that point, if you do want to create a brand new process flow and for a new workflow that you have, you can certainly do that. You can also have, migrate your existing auto routes and start into the process designer. So that's with the migration assistant, and Prasanna will show that at a high level. But I think it's important to know day one process flows, if you don't want to use them, you certainly don't have to. All of your existing workflows move forward and you can use them as is, and then you make the decision of when you want to start using this new feature.
That's right. So let me give you that whatever the process which we talked about, simple process, probably I would probably demonstrate how easy to create that process. So I'm just creating a new process. So just an example, demo process flow. I just put a name here as demo process flow. Then form type is service request. We have all the different ticket types is shown. So I'm just selecting service request for this one, and then going to the process designer tab. So initially what you would see is the entry criteria where the service request. So this can be your entry point to the process. For this sake, probably I would take as match all condition and then use the categorization. Categorization can be, because now I have to get to legal, handle the legal type of request. So I'm just creating a service legal. I already have a category by that. And then so assignment. So here for this purpose, probably I would need to assign it to the legal group. Let me get the legal group here. So it's there. So I'm just assigning the tickets directly to the legal group. and then set conditions. So what I need to set is probably just for awareness sake. Let me put as reason code and then put that as new request and then add that and then go to face as my initial request and then status. So I'll just put the status as new for this type of ticket, and then I can add the notify. So for this time's sake, probably I'll just close it like that without notification. So what is the first step? That's what this would be my first step. So then I need to go and add step. So what I have mentioned was whenever ticket gets, it automatically gets landed to the legal group. So what I need to do is probably accept assignment is the additional step which I need to do. So it comes up as accept assignment. I would mention it as like take ownership as the information or the name for that step. So and then go to set step. So here I would put status as active. And then probably I would put face. This is not required to have this face and other stuff because now the flow is not dependent on any matching condition. So I can just put as initial request and then save step. So this is for take ownership. Assume if it's already one person is already taking an ownership, or we can probably add another step. We can just go back to the entry criteria and then add a step to update the ticket. So it can be, so I'll just rename that update request and then set fields as status as active. And then probably save this step. So once we update the request, probably I need to close this request. So I'll just add update status again, and then probably close the ticket. So this is just the simple steps which are similarly, if I want to add multiple steps, you can do that. Now assume somebody has taken ownership. So from after taking ownership, you would update the ticket, and also you would like to close from here too. So you can just connect this line from take ownership to close ticket too. So even you can do take ownership and then close the ticket, or do. So this probably would be a simple flow. So what I need to do is probably save this flow and then publish it. So during publishing, you can also do validation of the process. That means to check whether any other process of same condition, same matching condition are there or not in the system. So that way it will give more convenient to tweak the conditions for this flow or use the old other existing flow. Just to show you that this ticket, whatever I created now, would land up in this particular process. So I'm just creating a ticket, can create a catalog item, but probably I would just go and create a request with that category so that it will go and land the ticket in that. So So just here I need to select the proper categorization so that the ticket would land in that particular flow. So I'm just searching for the legal. I'm just getting that, and then now I would just go and save this ticket. So how do you verify whether the ticket is landed or the ticket is using that particular process? It's same as like existing way, where you could go to the activity history and then view them. So here you can see the process flow applied is the demo process flow. That's the one which I created here, the demo process flow. So that got applied and then ticket assigned to the ticket group, a legal group. That assignment happened and then demo process flow. So if you go to that particular ticket, you would see the actions which are there, take ownership and update request. So you would see those two actions, and the other actions which we would see here, probably the bulk actions which are there are configured in the system, which we can remove them or which we can modify and then provide actions. Since I'm an administrator, I would see those actions, but as an analyst, they would see probably those two actions and also some bulk actions which are provided permissions for them. So that way you would see a limited options for an analyst to take, so that it would be much efficient in running this process faster. So let me go back to the presentation. So I'll just configure define a simple process. So same thing probably would start off showing up a. So this is what I just created. So entry criteria, configured service request, configure take ownership step, update request, and then close ticket. So I connected the take ownership also from there to close ticket. So this is just a simple process to show how the flow takes it up. So you can also do a complex process. I'm just giving an example of that in the next one. So here, just taking an example of a change request. So with an approval process, it's not a big complex one, just for demo purpose, which has got multiple steps of the process. So probably I already created this one. We can just validate and then see. So this is how the process would look. Let me again get into the system and then show you the flow. Closing the demo process flow, and then probably searching for the change one. So I created a demo change. It's in draft state. So to configure that, what you required is just a form type is change request, and then get into the process designer. So if you go to the entry criteria, so here the change type is standard. That's the matching condition. Any change created as standard type would get land in this particular process. So probably once you have this process configured, in case if you want to have multiple different assignment of group or change manager or the approval for this one, so you can go and do an assignment separately. So here for testing purpose, I just put as service just L1, but you can go and create multiple rules based on the condition. Let me show you how we can create a condition. So here match all condition again. So based on change type, if it is standard, it gets landed here, but your further filter or further assignment would be based on categorization. So you want to assign it to a different group. Go ahead and create a categorization. So I can go and specify the categorization. So in case if it is hardware or application, or just an example, in case of the categorization hardware, I can go and specify the assignment group. So for example, in case for network, probably I would need to put it as network group. let me show network engineers. And then also you can have other set fields apart from the group assignment or something, in case if you want to hire the priority or any other custom fields you want to set based on this condition. So you can still do that, and then you can just give add rule. So you would get that, for example, in case if the change request is there, and for change type you have created a flow, and then but you want assignment rules to be different based on the conditions or categorization or criteria, so you can still do that. So similarly, you can add multiple such rules inside the process that would help in reducing your auto routes and then having probably limited process flows where the performance of the system would definitely increase, because you don't require to search or get through all the paths, all the conditions to match the auto route or the process flows. So it would land in this process and then know what route it would take based on the condition here. So I've just created that, and then you can also do set fields same way as the existing way. So you would set what are the required fields. You can also set the custom fields over here, and then you can also specify notification template and then save this step. So this might be my entry criteria. Same thing, once the entry criteria is created, I would like to take ownership of the assigned group members. One of them would take the ownership of that particular ticket. So I'll just put accept assignment and then take ownership step. So once the take ownership is taken, that action is taken, so I would like to set that fields. So reason code is active. Probably I would also need to set the status for that particular. This one also as active by default, it will be new or something. So probably I'll just save this step. So once this take ownership, I would directly go to submit for manager approval. So here I have selected submit for manager approval. So here also you can see the advanced option what you had earlier, like approval type, approval status, and then also this approval phase, where you can specify in case if you want to take a multi-level approval, so you can configure the approval phase for each of them and then have multiple approvals configured in the system. So it would be same as what you would see here, and also you could see the other options here. Permission set fields are the standard way of configuring the step, so you would still get. So on approved, what actions you want to take, like your earlier ZZ workflow actions or whatever you had. So it would be same way as this particular workflow action what you want to take on approved. So same way you can also set proper approval status is approved, phase approval, have reason code and notify people once it's approved. And also once it's approved, I just want to go to the implement and change. So implement the change update ticket, and then after implementation, I would close that particular change. So that way you can add the multiple steps to the flow. For example, now on approval, after the approval is completed, implement the change. So you are at this step. So most of the times you might want to call an auto task or automation execution over here once you are at this particular step. So you can also add a step to call and execute automation connector. So that whatever you have configured in the automation connector, all those things would list up over here. For example, in case if I want to probably update certain, let me take an example of the CA service management connector only. Probably create an asset is one thing which we can take. CA cloud service management, and then I should have a credentials to that, and also it lists me all the status which are operations which are required for that. So just for testing, you can just create an asset. So for this, in an earlier world, for example, in case if you have created an automation workflow, you would need to pass in that information of asset name and every stuff inside that. So now what we have is like map inside the process itself. So you could get the list of all the mandatory and optional parameters inside the step itself. So where organization or set name are mandatory. So here I could pass this information from map to ticket field. So already have a ticket field or have that information of organization inside the ticket attribute. So I can use that attribute and then pass in that information. Similarly, I can also have the information in case if I based on the response also if I want to populate the ticket fields back, so you could still do that. You can also, that would be in the set field, you would see those values. So once you have that, based on that, you can see the map automation output, what are the outputs from the automation, so you can also map to the ticket. So that way it will be up, like you can do synchronization of ticket and updation inside the process flow itself. So that's about the complex process, including the automation step or something. Let me go back to the presentation and walk through this flow, and then more standard change. Let me see what else I have. My colleague can just demonstrate the so that's some of the steps. Let me show you the migration part of this one. For that, probably let me create a new process flow. I just want to show the flow creation. Migrated related process. And probably for service request, I want to create a migration process. So I want to have this probably entry criteria matching condition here, and then probably specify this again for a particular category, or let it be blank for time being, match all condition. So probably I'll remove the condition, let me not have any condition. So that way. So now I want to use this migration utility to migrate auto route. So here I would need to specify the condition. So assume if I don't specify any condition, so I would get the list of all the auto routes existing for service request. So because my ticket type is service request, or the entry criteria for the process is service request, so that way I'm just getting the list of only the auto routes which are service request type. If I specify a specific condition, for example, for network related process you want to create, and that would list, and then if you have the condition as network in the categorization or the same conditions which you had in the auto route, so that would limit their auto route lists you would get seeing the probably which are related to that particular category. So for timing, you just want to check this auto route, okay, service request. So I have an email auto route which is created. I just want to get that auto route inside my process flow. So I would get that. So and also I need to get this service, these two notification template which I have there, so I would get inside my process flow. So that way it would get that information. Yeah. So if you go to that auto, probably I just did it twice, so it came in twice. So you would see that source as email, that was the criteria which was configured in the auto route, and then they assigned to for that particular, this one the auto route was service risk L1. So it automatically got that information and populated in my assignment rule. And also you would see notify would have these two SR service request acknowledgement, group assignment, notification templates got migrated inside my auto route or the entry criteria step. So I'm just creating and then going to the next step. So here probably I would need to get the associated workflow actions. So inside my step. So here I'm going to use the migration utility for migrating the workflow actions inside the process. So here also I would use the same methodology. So probably I would get my set pending vendor, set pending customer, take ownership of request, reassign in my group or reassign to individual. Some of this step might not be required, complete as successful, fulfillment failure. So all these things I would need. So I would get that. So how it would get listed out in the list. So the connections for this one need to be manually made because we don't know how each of these are connected from the just flow action. So that way, at least you would get all the information, all the steps required, including, for example, in case if you go to take ownership, so it would give me all the permissions which were there, and for that particular this one, set fields which were there, and then any notification templates it was there, it's already there. So what you need to do is connect that from the entry criteria. So here, for example, take ownership would be my first step. So I would drag that bit more and then just want to connect to this. So that way I would get my take ownership of new requests come in. So once it's there, I need to see in case if there is any specific information which is required, which is not populated. So I need to do a set pending customer. So I would do that, and also probably I would need to have this once it's set pending, probably again a take ownership. So, and then set pending vendor in case I'm just creating another just dummy flow here, it should be fine. And then once it's cleared, so I want to have that both the options here, the connecting to a single step. So I can do set pending complete as successful, same as. So if I want to delete, I can delete that line because it didn't connect properly. So yeah, so this way I can create and then publish this particular flow. It's available for my entry service request to handle particular requests. So that way you can create the process with using the existing conditions or the workflow actions and auto routes inside the flow. So that way you can publish this. Let me show you the options for validation. So how we will validate whether there are any other process flow exists with similar conditions. So it would show me I can do a validate from here. So validate process flow. So check for conflicts. So no conflicting process because it's probably the standard flow and no conflicts appeared. So I'm okay to publish this particular flow. So once it's published, it would be available for the ticket. Any ticket created using this flow would match this flow, would get into this particular one. So also in case, for example, in case if somebody is modifying this one, so we have an option from the process because most of the time once published might not work completely. So it might require multiple times to get to the proper flow. So we can do the published flow. You can get into a flow and then make it as checkout for editing, similar to editing or put it to the draft state. So what it would happen for the existing ticket when I'm in editing or checked out. So what we were maintaining is like inside the process flow, we have some sort of versioning capability. So where the existing tickets which are already using that process would continue with the same process. Whatever you have edited, added new step or doing anything and republished it, that would get to the new tickets which are created after that new publication or new published version that would land up there. So there won't be any clash between which version I'm using or which version is created or which version is currently used. So that way it will have the information of what was used earlier for that particular old ticket, so it would continue that way. So you don't, like in between it will not change the flow. So that way you can keep the track of what changes you have done to the process. So that's pretty much on the process flow. I'm ready to take any questions. That's the demonstration.
There's certainly lots and lots of questions that have been going on in the WebEx chat persona. Okay. I think a lot still related to, when you have to migrate and start using this. Does it apply on day one? I think just to reiterate, if you're an existing customer, which the majority of the folks on the phone are, not the majority, almost everyone on the phone, you will continue to use your workflow actions, auto routes exactly as they are today. We don't touch them during the migration. Your process flows workspace will be empty, and you make the decision of when you want to start using process flows. You can say, for any new stuff you create, you can start using it, or you can make the decision to migrate, based on your auto routes, one by one from there. So at this point, there's one question of when is there a cutoff date of when the legacy functionality of workflow actions and auto routes will disappear. We don't have a formal announced date yet. We want to understand how you feel as customers and what the comfort level is, and make sure that you're ready to start moving there. Typically, on a feature like this, it's about 2 releases is what we like to work with, but a formal announcement will be made. At this time, we haven't announced anything formally.
That's fine. So one question, the latest question, last question which I see, like migrated to process designer, old auto route and actions will disappear. No, it would not disappear. The workflow actions would still remain because we don't know which all process, which all auto routes, or which all tickets would use that workflow actions. Only the auto route would get deactivated once you have auto route migrated, and then the new process flow is published. So then we were thinking to having an option of making the auto routes which was used to migrate would get deactivated. But still, in case if you want to make it the process flow as draft, check out for draft and then make it in draft state, and then activate that auto route back. So you can still continue to work the same way. For limited time you want to test it out, you can still do that using the process flows.
Okay, and just so everyone knows, this presentation is recorded. It will be posted to the community site along with the actual deck that was used. We'll do that every week with each session that we cover, so that's there for everyone's use. And of course, we know a lot of people can't make the calls every week, so we will post that as well.
Okay, I think to continue that, this was about the Bamboo one. So I just want to highlight what's coming in the MR1, the Bamboo maintenance release 1. So currently we didn't have the conditional branching sort of thing inside the process. So you need to connect what are the steps are connected to the main step. All those actions would show up in the ticket. So to avoid that, and then you can have a conditional branching for the flow. So that is coming up in the MR1. And also the approval configurations, which we have like setting approvals and reviewers for a process. In Bamboo, we are using the approval groups, which is probably the not the best approach. So what we were looking is like once you have submit for approval action, so inside that only we would be having an approver and reviewer option. So that is the other one which is coming up in the MR1 release. So the future one.
Okay. Do we have any questions on the phone line? And again, everyone is on mute, so it is #6 or #6 to unmute yourself, and feel free to ask an audio question at this time. Okay. I'm looking at all the chat questions that have come in just to make sure we've addressed all of those. Okay. There was one. Okay, one question to me in Spanish, but I'll take that offline.
Okay.
Anything else you want to cover, Prasanna?
Nothing else. I think you can cover the logistics last slide.
Sure. Yep.
Yep.
Just take control here. Yep, so a couple things just in closing. Again, all the webcasts are recorded and posted to the community site. So I definitely encourage everybody to take a look at the community site. We're putting a lot of content around this latest release. You know, videos, presentations, demonstrations. We've published a bunch of new education videos, so there's a ton of content out there. And this is really the best place to go, I think, to find out information about new releases or ask questions about, you know, existing releases. And also the wiki site has been live for a few months related to this latest release. So when questions came up around how to use the migration wizard and how to use the process designer, there's a lot of information there. And you should see some videos embedded in those articles as well to help with that. We will continue to do this webcast series every week, same time, 11 a.m. Eastern on Wednesdays. We get really good attendance at that time. I think it maps to the most of the time zones very well, and we'll continue this for about the next 6 weeks. Next week, Prasanna will be back as our featured speaker again, focusing on asset management and discovery. Oh, someone else just took control. I'm going to take it back. So we'll be focusing on asset management and discovery next week. I will stay on the WebEx for the next about 5 minutes for any other questions that come through, but we'll go ahead and end the audio conference now and stop the recording. So thanks, everyone, and thanks, Prasanna, and we'll talk to everyone next week.
Thanks, Rich. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.